Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for Comics Revisited. Today, continuing our look at the Venom comic books from the 90s, we're talking about Venom Separation Anxiety. That's right everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers, Comics Revisited, Venom Separation Anxiety. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, this is...
Brooks.
The magnificent he is, and magnificent you are for checking out this video. Today we're talking about Venom Separation Anxiety. It's all contained in this graphic novel right here. We've been talking about him for the last few weeks. The Mace, Knights of Vengeance, The Exile Returns, and now the culmination, Separation Anxiety, right here. This is the book that reintroduces the Life Foundation symbiotes. We got Riot, Scream, Lasher, Phage, and Agony, right? Never named until way later. Yeah. But we thought they died at the end of Lethal Protector. Turns out we were wrong, and Exile Returns Scream shows up and says they want Venom's help to learn how to control the symbiote. So, at the end of the Exile Returns, which we talked about last week, Eddie is now separated from the symbiote, right? And they're being kept way far apart in this book, right? So Eddie is in prison, basically. They got him. The symbiote is in a completely other part of the country in its own little form of containment. These other 5 symbiotes, Lasher, Phage, Agony, Riot, and Scream, who we saw in The Exile Returns, they break Eddie Brock out of that prison. And they want him to teach them how to control their symbiotes. But Eddie ain't having it, is he?
No, he's a real dick in this.
He kind of is, man. He doesn't want to help him. In the last one, he just wanted to kill Scream, and this one, he just wants to kill him. Why does Venom, who's bonded with a symbiote, think that no other person can have a symbiote? Right? Now, I understand...
Well, maybe he's kind of like, because Carnage was such a failure for him.
But I get that. I get that. But okay, so... And here's the thing. In Lethal Protector, when Scream first gets the symbiote, she's the first one that we see then. And she's the next one we see. She's kind of crazy. She's going after people. She's hurting the innocent. We've been talking about Eddie's obsession with protecting the innocent. And how the symbiote has that obsession as well. And it gets merged together. And they wind up being able to take themselves away from this obsession with Peter Parker by turning it into this quest to save innocence. Right? So the 5 symbiotes, they break Eddie out. He's not having it. He's fighting with them. The symbiote itself breaks out of its own prison and comes up to meet up with Eddie Brock, right? Yeah. Was there something else that happened? Like they fight the symbiotes. He winds up fighting them. Yeah. Well,
Scream ends up murdering
the
others.
Agony dies first. Then I think Phage dies.
And like you played it up like Agony's death was Brock's fault.
Somebody's killing these other symbiotes. They start slowly picking them off with a sonic knife. So it's a knife that's got sonic abilities. Not a screwdriver, but a knife that can pierce the symbiote and kill the host within. So they kill Agony. They kill another one. I think it's Phage. Maybe Lasher. They set it up to look like Brock is the killer. They turn on Brock. Brock's like, I'm not the killer. Bam! Scream's the killer. She's crazy. All of a sudden, she convinces herself that all the symbiotes are evil and all the humans that are bonded with symbiotes are evil, so she must kill them all. Comes out of nowhere. As much as I like The Exile Returns, as much as I like the Mace, as much as I like these Life Foundation other symbiotes, it's kind of a little thin ending to this story because it builds itself up pretty decent. It's the first time that we've seen Eddie and the symbiote removed that much from each other for so long, right? For a long time. Yeah. They were separated in Lethal Protector, but not as long or as far away as in this one. And the symbiote this whole time is going from host to host to get back to Eddie. Even after it tried to betray Eddie by jumping on Ben Reilly last week. Right? So, Scream does this crazy thing. The symbiote comes back, gets on Eddie just in time. He defeats Scream. No problem, right? But what, 2 or 3 of these 5 symbiotes are dead at this point? Something like this?
All of them except for Scream.
Yeah, they're all, So, therefore, Riot, Lasher, as famous as they have become, as much as we love them and the toys, they didn't have that much impact on the comic book itself. They had their impact in the video game, Separation Anxiety. Do you remember that?
I never
That was
played
like
it.
Super
I remember-
Nintendo, maybe
yeah,
Genesis, something like
I remember
that.
when it came out.
Yeah, and they had a toy line about it and everything, and that's where the Riot figures and the Lasher and Scream had their first action figures. And that's why nobody remembers Agony and Phage, because everybody focused on those three. You know? But that's basically the story in a nutshell, and at the end of it, after the symbiote and Eddie have rebonded and they defeat Scream, Eddie wills the symbiote off of him and says, I've had some time to think. I don't really know what you're doing in my head. I think we need some time apart. It's not you. It's me. He breaks up with the symbiote at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
What?
The symbiote's like all floating behind him, all sad, and he's just standing there like, we need to see other people.
Yeah, right? We need to see other symbiotes. And of course, he's still going to be on this quest to stop Carnage. Because very soon, Carnage and Venom come back up against each other, but we're not going to talk about that until 2019 because we're done with Venom for a while. Maybe at the end of the year. Maybe we'll do that one at the end of the year. We'll get back to some more Venom stuff, but that's basically all we're going to talk about right now. The artwork in this story is done by, that's Ron Randall, and it's all right. I don't think it's near as good as Liam Sharp was. I don't think it's near as good as Stephen Butler or Tom Lyle. I don't think it's near as good as Ron Lim. Knights of Vengeance has better artwork, but it's all right. Scream looks cool. The other symbiotes look cool. I like how they're all distinctive, but I always hated how Agony and Phage didn't really have that much of a personality.
Right.
Actually, I think they give Phage more of a personality than they do Lasher. Lasher just looks cool. But the artwork's kind of bland, kind of generic. Venom's wearing that just green suit throughout. Like, Eddie's just wearing that green suit throughout it. It's a little weird. Not really my thing artistically. Writing-wise, I think it's interesting. This is written by Howard Mackie, I believe. I'm pretty sure this one was Howard Mackie. Howard Mackie did Knights of Vengeance. Yeah, it's Howard Mackie, Ron Randall, Sam De La Rosa, Tom Smith on the coloring. The art's all right. It's not my favorite art in the Venom story. It's not my favorite story. It is cool what it does and sets up, and I like seeing the other symbiotes come back. But ultimately, I feel like it was a little bit of a letdown. What do you think about the story overall?
I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, tell me why.
I did like seeing, you know, all the old symbiotes back.
Yeah.
From the other stories, and you know, they gave them a little bit of something. Not as much as I'd like, you know.
Yeah.
Like if they'd done like a good 12 issues with.
Oh man, 12 issues? Yeah. Well, they would have definitely had to. Like, I would have liked to see more about.
You know, to get to know them.
Who are these people?
Yeah.
We never really got to know these people.
We know nothing about what these people were like before.
We not just know Venom, we know Eddie Brock. We just don't know Carnage. We know Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah.
We never got to meet the people behind these symbiotes. So I feel like it was a failed opportunity. Yeah. And eventually, I think the next time we see all this, I really do. We'll have to read some more of these. But I remember at some point, all of those symbiotes become one, and it becomes hybrid. And so, like, I just don't really feel like, and they got popular because of that video game and the toy line by Toy Biz, because that was a great toy line too. Lots of variants and cool stuff. But ultimately, it's just like, these are characters that are still remembered today. But ultimately, what did we get? In Lethal Protector, they show up and get got.
Yeah.
In Separation Anxiety, they show up and get got by one of their own, and it makes no sense, and it's kind of out there. But here's the other question I want to ask you. If Eddie would have helped them, would it have been different?
I think it would have, because you know they're probably more stable than Eddie was.
Yeah,
you know?
They just don't have that control.
Yeah,
and maybe like Eddie and his symbiote, they had that hatred of Peter Parker.
Yeah,
they were both like at the lowest point.
And I think like Scream's part of the reason she did that at the end is like that maybe that was her obsession.
Yeah,
is wondering like, are these things really evil? Like, are we evil for wanting, to bond with them?
It would have been nice to, like, dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
To build this up just a little bit more. I'm glad that they had that little thread in the Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man books that led into this. But just wasn't enough. This is definitely a story that deserved to go deeper.
Yeah.
I think. What do you think about the artwork?
That was pretty good.
Serviceable.
Yeah.
Doable.
Yeah.
All that jazz. Well, join us next week. First of all, let us know in the comments below. What do you think about Separation Anxiety? Do you remember the comic? What did you think about it? Do you remember the video game? What did you think about it? Do you remember the action figure line by Toy Biz? What did you think about it? Let us know in the comments down below over at the PCP Army. That's right, PCP Army over on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, type in PCP Army, A-R-M-Y that is. That's how we spell it. I tried to go the A-R-M-E-E route, but I thought maybe that would be too confusing. We already got the PCP thing. We don't want to throw people off. I don't know. Join us over at the PCP Army on Facebook. We'll be talking about this and a lot more. Join us next week, though, when we're done with Venom for a minute. We're going to be talking about Aquaman. Do you know there's an Aquaman movie coming out?
I'd heard something.
It's very, very soon. And we're going to be talking about some Aquaman. Now, you guys know I'm a huge Aquaman fan. Brooks has not read a lot of Aquaman.
Yeah.
So we're going to be covering, over the next 2 weeks, Peter David's Aquaman and Jeff Johns' Aquaman. Two of the greatest runs on Aquaman in my life. I love it. So next week, Peter David's Aquaman. I'm excited. Are you excited?
Yeah.
We're going to be covering the first 20 issues of that, plus the Time and Tide special, and the Zero issue, all that stuff. Basically, the first 20 issues of Peter David's Aquaman. We'll be talking about it next week. Getting ready for that movie that looks very badass. My man. Yes. Aquaman next week. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is
Brooks.
Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. And like I said, check us out, PCP Army. And, of course, PopCulturePhilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. We thank you guys so much. Have I already done that? Have I already said I'm Rockin' Robbie and you're Brooks?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Umbrellas.